Now the 46th Sabbatical Orit or Torah scroll reading is from Deuteronomy chapter 7. Let's bring that up here from our Orit readings chart sample, since we have about from Janhoy's Earth Strong, the Son of Man, from the Son of Man Day, from the birthday of LIJ TAFARI, or what's commonly known as the birthday of Haile Selassie, with the occurrence of that being on July 23rd, the heliacal rising of Osiris, the Nile inundation, the flood waters of the Nile, which all connects with that sign of Geta Jesus Christos, the sign of Jesus Christos, or the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, which is a heavenly sign or astrotheological sign, and we have to connect with that the Orit, Zefitret, or Genesis, Bereshit 1 and 14, where it speaks of signs, seasons, days, and years, the signs in the heavens, and compare that with Matthew 24, chapter 24, verses 27 to 31, and namely, pay close attention to verse 30. Verse 30 is a very important verse to recognize what's the sign of LIJ TAFARI, or the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, and compare that with Revelation chapter 12, verses 5 to 6. So all this now links with the heliacal rise, or the rise of Cyrus, or what's commonly called the dog star, the polar star, et al., so forth and so on. Now it's very important to understand that link there with the birthday of Haile Selassie, what's commonly called the birthday of Kedemawi Haile Selassie, which is the birthday of the Son of Man, or the sign that accompanied the birth of LIJ TAFARI. It's very important for us to understand that link with that day, and how that day is linked with the Nile waters, the head of creation, what was known in ancient Egypt as the head of creation, with the inundation of the Nile waters. And it gets very interesting when we get into the hieroglyphs, and when we get into the Ethiopic and the proper interpretation, transliteration of the Ethiopic words, and the comparison with the ancient Kamite or the ancient Egyptian words, the link there. Because remember, the Israelites, the Beta Israel and Muse, was learned in all the wisdom of the Egypts, of the upper and the lower Egypts, or the so-called Kamite and the Kushite Egypts. So it's very important for us to understand how Yahweh and the worship of the true God, Yahweh, was preserved during that time by our Coptic Hebraic brother Muse. So that sign that the Bible speaks of, the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, links with July 23rd. And July 23rd links with the heliacal rise, or the rising of Cyrus, or the dog star. And that links with the flood waters. And we know the flood waters come from the headwaters of the Aker, or the highlands of Ethiopia. And we know that Psalm 68:31 says that Ethiopia shall stretch forth her hands to God. But before that verse, the B part of the verse, the A part, says that princes shall come out of Egypt. So when we link all the prophetical signs there, we come to Rastafari, or Rastafari revelation. So now what we want to address is getting our house in order. Let all things be done decently and in order, as well as to redeem the time, and to understand how the Antichrist, the Hasaway Mashiach, or the anti-Christians, the Antichrist, Satan, and the men and people under the influence of Lucifer and Satanism have sought to change laws and time. So have us on an artificial Greenwich time coming out of England. The whole world is on this artificial time. So we have to get into a proper time, you understand, in order to come out of Babylon and recognize what the true signs are. We can't see the true signs in this Gentile misinterpretation. We have to go back to the root. So this is why the Orit, or the Torah scroll, the Sabbatical readings, and there are 54 of them for the entire year according to the ancient Hebraic or Judeo calendar, the lunar calendar coupled with the solar calendar, now brings both the father and the mother, the lunar and the solar. It brings us once again into the proper alignment again. And this is where we also see within the book of Revelation that sign of the woman. You understand, who is garbed in the sun, and the moon is at her what? The moon is at her feet. So the moon is the foundation of that woman. Thus Ethiopia's Judeo-Christian heritage and our Hebraic and Messianic heritage and our lunar and solar calendar as one, once again restored in and through the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, or that astrotheological sign of LIJ TAFARI, which you know as Rastafari, and the world knows as Kedamawi Haile Selassie. So let's get into the 46th of the 54 Sabbatical Orit or Torah scroll readings, often called the parashot readings. The 46th one is called Ekeb, or some say Ekev. The Ashkenazi say Ekev. But the readings from the Orit or Torah are Deuteronomy chapter 7 verses 12 to Deuteronomy chapter 11 verse 25. The Haftarah reading is Isaiah chapter 49 verse 14 to Isaiah chapter 51 verse 3. And then we have the Adis Kidan, or the Bert Hadash or Hadasha reading from the New Testament, New Covenant, from Hebrews chapter 11 verse 8 to verse 13, and Romans chapter 8 verse 31 to verse 39. So these are the readings for the 46th week, and the 46th week actually began on the past Senbet or Sabbath or Shabbat, which it was July 23rd, and the birthday of the King of Kings, or the birthday of LIJ TAFARI, the Son of Man. So now we get to now see through this prophetical time and space that we're in, how it all begins to align. We can see this alignment, and this is very important as we are approaching this prophetic time, especially with the talk and speculation and the actualization of the prophetic signs of 2012. So it's very important for us to get our house in order, and we hope to be able to go through these readings and teachings from the Torah, the Haftarah, and the Bert Hadasha in a timely fashion. So in order to catch up, we would need to go through Ekeb, which is the 46th of the 54 readings for throughout the particular year. And the superiority of our Orit reading chart and the chart sample that we're going to make currently available is that it not only includes the Torah and the Nabim, along with the Ketabim, or the prophetical writings, and the other writings of like Kings, the Book of Kings and Ruth, and other areas of Scripture, but the superiority of this is that it's messianic. Therefore, it's truly Christian or Christian, because it also includes the New Covenant. So from a Hebrew or Israelite or early Christianity, the early days of Christianity, the Nazarene and like the Apostle Paul and the other apostles, it is in conformity with their foundation, or the true foundation of Christ and his disciples, but mainly Christ and the apostles, because this is where the real Nazarene or the Christian movement really begins, and the real foundations. The problem with Western Christianity is that Western Christianity has taken out the foundations, has removed the foundations, and some even claim that it never had the foundations, namely Torah, which is Old Testament, which is the 5 books of Moses, and the prophets. and usually when they refer to it, it's just usually limited sound bites, a couple of verses which they say means that we're into Christianity, but not the true Christianity or Judeo-Christianity of Christ and his first century or early century apostles, which is early Christianity, getting back to the root, the truth, the Rita Itaminot or Tawahido foundation that was preserved in Ethiopia, in the highlands of Ethiopia. So it's very important for us to go through this, and just from some of the studies, some really amazing simplicity of Christ, and it brings everything into a perspective, a very good perspective. And those who study with us will find that out for themselves.